Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
My friends and I used to sneak into a shut-down factory section of a very small processing plant. We would each bring our own supplies, respirators, gloves, light sources, whatever we may need. There were 4 of us, so if we ever decided to split up, we'd have a buddy. One night we decided to split up, jinkies, since I wanted to see more of the basement levels and my other friend wanted to see the upper levels. My buddy for the trip, David, was pretty hesitant about visiting the lower levels. As far as we could tell, there were 4 basement and above ground levels. It was pretty fucking understandable as to why he would be worried, since the basement floors would flood pretty easily and it was absolute pitch darkness. Like the kind of dark that seems to eat the light you shine in it. Before we started our descent, we told our friends to meet us at the broken wall entrance on the first floor in a half an hour. The plan was set, and I was pretty stoked to see some dark-ass concrete shithole basements. After almost slipping on the stairs, we made it to the first basement level. We quickly realized that the basement levels were just as massive and scary to travel as the rest of this place. I'm talking thousands upon thousands of square feet of run-down machinery, leftover papers and manuals, and even some safety equipment. Our trip didn't last very long once we happened upon many doorways and even more stairs. We decided it was foolish to get lost in a place like that, so we stuck to easy landmarks for navigation. The noises mostly consisted of water drops that you could hear easily, since it was just a maze of concrete walls and dilapidated walkways. I couldn't help but shine my light wherever I believed a water drop sounded a little too loud. All was going swell until my David decided he wanted to see the rundown bathroom and use it for some fucking reason. The bathroom was as Silent Hill as you could imagine. I couldn't imagine how many years' worth of dust and debris collected on every surface of this disgusting bathroom. It was obviously colder in the basement as well. While freezing my adorable off, I looked around this nightmare of a bathroom. What I saw in the sink made me jump back a bit. My light shined against the mirror just above a clump of fur. I slowly walked near it and realized it was a poor dead raccoon. My only response was, "Oh shit." David, who just finished pissing, got worried and looked at me. I shined my light on it and we both happened to see the raccoon in more detail. It was dead for probably around no more than a day or 2. Pretty fresh. But what freaked us out even more was the very visible bite mark near its jugular. The hair was missing and everything. The look in its beady eyes seemed to be filled with total shock. It wasn't even a huge bite. I still think a human did it. Upon having that image in our heads, we decided that was enough of the factory for one night. We walked fast into the first floor entrance and texted our friends that we wanted to get the fuck out. That was the last time we went in there. We heard a bunch of kids got caught by being idiots, so they upped security. It was such a cool place, too.
One night some time ago, I was dealing with a mental breakdown and depression. I had taken 5 Clonopin tabs, 5 tabs midazolam, a glass of whiskey and had maybe spent the day smoking an entire ounce of conch. So, a lot of benzos, alcohol and pot. Then there was also Tylenol Sinus. It works awesome with whiskey, melatonin and some other sleep medication and painkillers. I was kind of expecting to die. I didn't plan to. At that time I really just wanted a long night's sleep with no pain. But as I was laying there on my bed, which a mattress on the floor on top of a nice-looking carpet, because my bed lost a leg, feeling comfortable and warm and cozy. The benzos had removed the feeling of mental anguish and the whiskey was turning those up to 100. It also went well with the weed and Tylenol. About 40 minutes in I started feeling stupidly tired. Midazolam is a benzo, but it's a fucking powerful anesthetic used to put people to sleep pre-medical operations. I had taken 5 tabs and usually they recommend a single tab every 3 days. Not only that, but I started feeling my body locking up. As in, I'd sit down to try and steady myself and I'd find myself unable to get up. It was as if my body no longer responded. Then there was the cold. I live in Iceland and it's fucking cold here, but I'm used to it. But the cold inside my house that day got so intense nothing compared to it. It came out of nowhere too. I had been sitting exactly where I was for about 1 hour when the cold hit. It felt like a blizzard. My skin fucking burned with cold and I couldn't move due to shivers. I half dragged my ass to the bedroom and covered myself and laid down and accepted that an OD was on the way and this was the end. I somehow even managed to put on the doors, "This is the end," on my phone. I had about accepted that I had just committed self-end. I was laying there trying to find a comfortable position because my stomach and arms had started to cramp at this moment. Trembling and cramping and feeling like my head had been placed inside a blender and feeling extremely cold and unable to move. I remember thinking to myself this wasn't a good way to go, but if it was my time I'd see it through the end. Then broke down and I started listing out loud my own regrets to myself. To my surprise I look at my bedroom door and there is someone there. It was a goddamn shadow, phantom, ghost. The usual black shadow that takes 3-dimensional form. Its face was pale and so was its hands. And it was scary. And I mean, turn your bowels into liquid kind of scary. It was so freaking scary I wiped off my mind the fact that I was about to die. The phantom had a face, and it was terrible to look at. It was like that of an old man's, old woman's, dry and wrinkly. But it would chance and move like vapor, and here and there you could see it take on goddamn demonic aspects. As in the pupils would become cat-like, in one moment it would have a regular mouth, then in another it would turn into this razor blade fanged horror that bit out its own lips. The thing stared at me for a long time, then moved to the foot of my bed, standing over me. It moved without moving, as if an invisible god had picked it up with a mouse click and placed it there. It crouched low and started crawling over me. Its face was pretty demonic at this point. It resembled that dude from The Exorcist if there is anything to compare it to. It crawled over me until it was face to face with me, and the cold at this point was unbearable. It was actually painful. It dawned on me that this was a demon from hell here to drag down my self-ending ass. I was eye to eye with it. I was crying pretty badly at this point and I kept listing out my own regrets, unable to control it. The thing kept staring into my eyes as I sobbed uncontrollably and listing out all the bad shit I had done and bad decisions I had taken during my life. I felt my body lock up real bad and I felt the worst stomach cramp I ever felt in my life. My abdomen and neck locked up in a muscle spasm and I started feeling burning pain on my sides. Finally, I was startled by my own heart, which made the strongest and loudest single thud. I swear I actually felt my torso pump out with the strength of the beat. Then there was a long silence. I felt no more fear, no colder and no more pain. There was no sound. I couldn't even hear the fan that was set right next to me. There was me and the phantom, which was still staring. I was no longer afraid, so I stared deep into its brown and red eyes. It felt it look back deep into me. Really as if its stare was entering through my own eyes and scanning me from the inside. Then it spoke.
"I will forgive you this time. Do not do this again."
And I felt myself pulled back into my mattress and don't remember the rest. I woke up the next day still sitting in the same spot I had been before I had dragged myself to the bedroom. I do believe this was either my afterlife experience, or hallucination induced by the heavy drug usage. Still, here is my scary story.
Went into the woods a while back. My stepdad owns a cabin in New Mexico, so a few of my friends went up there for spring break last year. We're all around the fire pit at night right outside the entrance drinking beers when I go to take a piss a little off the side. The cabin is on a hillside, so I walk down to take a shit in the dark. It's only 100 feet off of where my friends are and I can still hear them, but it's pretty dark, and if it weren't for the moon I wouldn't have been able to transverse the trees down to where we choose to take shits the few days we were out there. As I'm leaning against a tree I hear light crackling sounds like someone walking behind me, and I start saying the usual, "Stop you fuckheads, I know it's you." But after the first time I say that I start listening more and the moving sounds. I don't know, weird. Like the steps being taken were big, slow, but not coming from the same area. I can still barely hear the sounds of my friends over the sound of music they were playing from a little Bluetooth speaker. They were singing the lyrics to some shitty post-grunge early 2000s track, and that's when I start getting really freaked out. The sounds were like skirting around me to my right, and I start running up the hill after pulling up my pants. Then the sound speeds up and it sounds like it's coming right at me. I turn for a second and I see a hand reaching towards me behind a tree, just illuminated enough in the moonlight to make a gray tint to it, though don't know if it was legit gray, but it had either long fingers or claws to it. The hand was like 10 feet away, and it just reached out like it was trying to grab me or was just pointing at me with all fingers. I screamed like a friend and rushed as fast as I could to the fire, scratching myself pretty bad against the trees. I remember throwing the toilet paper I had, but don't recall if I directly threw it at whatever reached out. I just jumped around and got this double-barrel skeet shooter out of a carrying case I had and kept saying to my friends, "Something's out there, get your guns, get your guns." One had a 9mm, believe Glock, and the other a .45 handgun. I didn't say what I saw, and only one of my friends actually went to get his gun inside. I spent the next 5 minutes pointing the shotgun at the side of the cabin I ran from and moving towards the tree line with my friends behind me. I told them I saw something reach out at me and got the usual, "Probably didn't see anything" bullshit. We tried sitting back down and chill again, but with no music it was an awkward dead silence. I was just quiet and finally put my gun to the side after I convinced my friend to bring out his .45 case. The adrenaline of the incident I guess sobered everyone up, and no one wanted to do anything anymore. How spooked they saw me become really got them. One of my friends said it could have been someone out here fucking with us, and I conceded that would be the best explanation, but it still spooked the fuck out of me. Still don't know what it was or if it was even something. My memories for sure recall the incident in hand, but I've almost convinced myself it was faked somehow in my head to be what I remember. I didn't sleep that night and was real freaked the whole night. Everyone slept at like near dawn in the living room of the cabin, which has this large 2-entrance doorway that's just a glass sliding door. There was a point where everyone was asleep. Had someone chill fall asleep on the couch next to mine like a bitch, and I heard creaking on the wood outside the glass doorway, then a tap on the glass like a fingernail. Turned on my phone's light, looked. Saw nothing but heard the creaking sounds leave off a bit like someone walking away. Woke my friend and went outside with respective firearms, but nothing. Stayed up till morning, packed and left. Never went back since.
This was many years ago when my friends and I were under the legal drinking age. I live in a rural area, so the solution to the youth dilemma has always been to throw a party outside somewhere secluded. My friends and I decided to throw a party one night in a wooded area on a hill. There is one gravel road that goes up to a radio tower and several areas where the trees thin out, and there is enough of a clearing to start a fire and have 20 to 30 people comfortably drinking without being in the woods, but is secluded enough not to be visible from the road, and the gravel road is long enough going up the hill to have everyone park and not be visible from the road. In short, it's a place that you'd have to specifically check to know there's a party. Myself and 3 friends arrived first to collect wood, start the fire, tap the keg, etc. We drove 2 cars and parked. 2 of my friends were going to get the keg out of the car and set it up while my buddy, Phil, and I collected firewood and started a fire. Phil and I walked further up the hill where the woods got denser and there was some dead, dried wood that would work best. As we scrounged for firewood, I felt like I was being watched. It was very dark at this point and my eyes were pretty well adjusted to the darkness, but you still had to focus to see very far. Because of the uncomfortable feeling of being watched, I froze and started looking around and listening for any noises. I noticed that Phil had done the same. That's when I noticed it. About 15 to 20 feet in front of us was a creature on all fours. The best I can describe it is that it looked like a wolf but about 9 feet long and had glowing red eyes. Its shoulders must have been at least 3 feet wide and it was thickly built. I was gone. Fight or flight kicked in and it was all flight. I dropped the wood in my hands and ran down the hill as fast as I've ever run, with no thought of Phil at all. I ran right past the 2 friends and the keg, got in my car and left as fast as I could. As I was starting my car, I saw Phil and the other 2 getting in the other car doing the same. I went home that night and Phil and I never talked about it again. Never as in quotes, because one night about a decade later we were sitting together in a bar and I turned to him and said, "So that night by the radio tower?" And he said, "Yep." I continued, "That happened, right?" He answered, "Yep," uncomfortably, making it clear that was the end of the conversation. In a life well lived and a list of scary shit, this is the scariest moment. Nothing else even comes close.
Okay, so this goes back to 2008. I was visiting my friend's family with my family and they had this really old house. The kind of house you would see in a generic horror ghost movie. It was huge, had 3 floors and a basement, never went in the basement. Me and him, let's call him John, decided to fuck around the property. We went around back and there was this big garden for sitting, the kind where old people would sit and relax. Eventually we went to the 2nd floor and found 2 creepy paintings, one pic related with street sign in blue that was 533 I think, don't remember. The other one was a table with the same street sign and a ghost in the foreground of the painting. Only showed a hand and some white robes. Pic-related painting was on the 3rd floor and ghost painting was on the 2nd floor, and when walking up the stairs the painting with the ghost was positioned as that you have had to see it if you go to the 3rd floor. When we got to the 3rd floor, John asked me, "Do you think that the street sign from the ghost picture is the same sign as the one in Pic-related?" I didn't see the picture first, so when he said it, I said, "What painting?" He said, "That one over there by the window." Let me tell you, something clicked at that time that I saw the painting. A feeling of dread came upon me that I wanted to fucking jump out the window just to get away. I started to run down the stairs like a madman, almost fell. Started to scream. Parents came, asked what's wrong, explained, the said it's just a painting, calm down. I still didn't feel well, threw up later. We had to sleep 3 nights there. Fortunately it wasn't the 3rd floor or the 2nd one. Never slept in the house. I slept in the car during the day sometimes. Couldn't sleep, had a feeling of terror every time I was about to fall asleep. Worst part of it was that I could hear someone with wet feet walking around in the room next to us. I didn't know what to fucking think. Who the fuck would shower 3 in the morning? Found John in the kitchen. Said I couldn't sleep. He said that it was like that the first time he saw the painting too. Apparently it was bought with the house. He couldn't sleep for 4 days. I asked him why not remove it then? He said nobody wants to go up there. Nobody even sleeps there, it's just empty space besides the painting. Well, that's my story. Right now wish I saw a ghost then.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.